Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Care Connection. So glad you're back with us this week. We're going to be talking about NG tubes today. So, I think techniques on how to put them in is probably one of those things that people are just not familiar with. Once you learn a couple of things, it's super easy and you will have no problems doing it. One thing on my mind I've always wanted to know is I've put a lot in and I've seen a lot of reactions, and I always wonder, what is it like to have an NG tube? Like, is it that uncomfortable, or is it just the process? So I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, maybe we'll try it and see what it's really like. So I hang around. I think I might put one in myself, just see if I can do it. So, two things, real quick, before we get into it. You guys are watching the channel. I can see it. Like the subscribers, the views, they have soared all week long. And I am super pumped up about it. Like, super pumped. I've been watching it day by day by day. And it just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. So, let's keep that ball rolling. Another thing. Say what? Somebody said something about free merch. Hell yeah, we want free merch. Let's do this. So, I want to give away a free t-shirt. So whatever t-shirt that you like on our Etsy store, what we'll do is we'll take a random person that leaves a comment in the next 5 days, and we'll go through, pick all the people that have left a comment just about the channel. I just want to hear what you guys have to say about it. Give me some feedback. Just let us know how you're feeling. We'll pick a random person, and then we'll announce the winner, and then I'll get with you and you just let me know what you want and I'll send it to you. Easy as that, but we'll get into that later. Let's get into NGs right now. Let's get it. That don't know about what NG tubes are, real quick, let's go over it. So it's basically a medical device that is used to either deliver nutrition or medications, and or vice versa. It can be used to pull off unwanted substances from the stomach, so keeping gastric contents off, removing a gas buildup in the stomach. You can use them for either one. So you may have one that's set up and on a feeding pump and it's delivering constant nutrition, and then we're giving meds in the tube every so often as they're ordered. Or you could have somebody that's hooked up to the suction canister on the wall and has intermittent suction to keep that stomach decompressed or keep the gastric contents off of the stomach. So dual purpose there. You can use it in many ways, and it can help you in several ways. So just a quick view from the side so you're going to get an idea where the tube goes. In through the nasal cavity, shoots down the esophagus and ends up in the stomach there. Very simple device, and this view just really kind of clarifies what that looks like from the side. So from a nursing standpoint, just keep a couple things in mind. I've got flushing on here, body position placement. Flush the tube. If you don't have anything going through it, flush it every time you go in and do assessment or something. Just flush a little bit of water through it just to make sure it stays patent. If you got tube feeds running, you should have a flush with that, and that would be sufficient. Body position is important if you're giving tube feeds. You don't want them to lay back and lay flat and then them have to aspirate the tube feeds and go into their lungs, because then you're setting them up for failure and problems more down the road. So placement of the tube, you should have it marked on the tube. It should be at whatever length, 60, and just eyeball that when you're going in to take care of the patient. Make sure your tube's still at 60. People have this affinity to want to grab that tube and pull on it. So if you got stuff running through it, you want to make sure it's still in the stomach and not putting them at a higher risk for aspiration. If your patient doesn't have anything running through it and it's just used as a decompression deal, the body position, they can lay flat. They can do most anything else. This is just to kind of take excess content off the stomach or keep gas buildup. So that is not as important. I would still flush it every so often and then just kind of cut the suction back on and put whatever you put back out. And then always, yes, monitoring for placement each time. We need to put this thing in. We need lube. You need your tube. You're going to need tape, preferably silk if you got it. You're going to need a 60 ml lure tip syringe, and this is going to be not the one with the screw tip in, but the one with the more blunt tip tapered in. And this is so once you insert your tube, you're going to take your 60 and you're going to inject air and listen with your stethoscope over the stomach to see if you can hear that air rush into the stomach. And that lets you know kind of very down and dirty, yes, I'm in place. If you don't hear it, then we need to reassess where we're at. Does it take the place of a chest x-ray to verify? No, but it at least tells you at that moment, yeah, I'm in a pretty good spot right here. And then you're either going to need a suction set up on the wall if you're going to decompress the stomach, or you're going to need a tube feed set up if you're using it for nutrition. Alright guys, so what we got here, we've got our NG tube, this Salem sump tube. You can see that it's got markings on it. We got 10 to 80 here. So we're going to kind of eyeball what we need. Easiest way that I've ever been taught to measure is going to be, we're going to measure from the tip of the nose around the ear, and then we're going to measure just to the bottom of the sternum here. So that should give you a pretty good idea as to what you need. So let's say I'm going to do that here. So I'm going to measure from the tip of the nose around, and let's see if I can get enough slack here. And then about right here. So let's see what we got here. It's going to put us right on the 55 mark. So in my experience, if you land anywhere from 55 to 60, maybe 65, you're going to be in the right ballpark for most any person. And that's with an NG tube like that. So once you get your markings, that kind of gives you an idea where you're going to go to. Now, you won't know exactly until when you get it in. You'll always want to get a chest x-ray. You can listen, you can aspirate contents and see what you got. But really and truly, to be able to see it, you need an x-ray so you can see where you're at. You may need to advance it a little bit and get into the right spot exactly. So just keep that in mind when you're putting one in. Other piece to this, you got your tube. You got to have a way to secure it. The easiest way I found is to use silk tape. And this is not silk tape, but this is white tape, and I thought might show up just as good. This is what I had on hand here. So what you're going to want, two pieces. So you're going to want one that comes from the nose, and then it comes down, and it's going to, there's a lot of ways you can do it. I personally do a candy cane method, and I'll show you how I do that. So I tear off a piece that's got a little bit of length to it like so. We'll have one with length, and then we'll have one that's just going to go over the bridge of the nose just to secure that piece down when we get done. So what I'm going to do on my longer piece, split it right in the middle. So let's bring it something like this. So now I've got a split piece about like so. So that's going to sit here, and then we're going to wrap the tube around it, and a candy cane is going to kind of spiral. I personally go opposite direction, so I'll spiral one way, and then the other one I go the other way. And it just gives you a couple of different anchoring points. And then once we get that one done, we're going to have this one, and it's just going to anchor over top of the piece we've got first. So you got tape ready, you got your tube ready, you need lube if you're going to put this in. So what I do personally is take your packet of lube, open it up, and I'm just going to squirt it down on my package that I opened up, and then I'll just have a little place here, and that way I can kind of just wet my tube around it. So once you got all those things, make sure your patient is in the right position. Usually you want them sitting upright, and if they can follow commands, will be super helpful when putting an NG tube down. half of them will, half of them won't. Depends on where you work at. Sometimes you just got to go with what you got, and sometimes that's not a person that follows directions well, and that's okay. We're going to learn some techniques and try to get you to a better spot, no matter what you got. So we got all the things, and I always just go ahead and tell the patients kind of what our plan looks like moving forward. I think that helps them mentally prepare a little bit. So what I usually do, I'm going to say, all right, we need to put this tube in. It's going to rest in your belly, and this is how we're going to do it. So while I've got my stuff and we're talking through it, I'm just kind of trying to bend a little bit of a curve to it. And only reason I do that, I think once we start putting it in, I think that helps it go just where it's supposed to. So once it hits back here, it's already got a little bend to it, and it will bend down this curve a little bit easier versus, let's say it's just straight and we're coming back and it kind of jabs the back of the throat there. And, it eventually will kind of bend and pop down. But if you give it just a little curve to begin with, I feel like once it comes through and passes, once it gets in the right spot, help if I hit the finger, but it will kind of take that path where you curve it. Now, you do have to remember, if you curve it, don't twist it around and go like this. Kind of keep in mind where your curve is. I personally, as I'm putting an NG tube in, I will walk them through and I kind of slowly go through it. And I don't know where I picked it up at, but along the way, as I'm passing the tube through the nasal passage right here, I do a little bit of a twist back and forth. And I think it just helps kind of go through any obscure passage. And I know naturally it feels like you need to go up like this when you're putting them in. But really and truly, once you get it in the nose, you want to kind of bring it up and just kind of shoot straight back. That helps you just kind of smoothly go through the passageway. Now you're going to eyeball whichever nostril looks bigger. And as you get to the back of the throat, you're going to be able to see a change in them. You're going to see them kind of buckle down, and their comfort level just went just down the tube. So when I get there, I try to go calmly as I can and say, all right, what we're going to try to do is on 3, I want you to try to swallow. So some people will give them a sip of water and try to have them swallow. It's harder, I'm sure, than it seems. I've never had one, but here in a minute, we're going to see. We're going to see if I can do it. So even if they don't follow commands, I usually try to kind of help them just stay tucked like this. And then as they swallow, I'll advance. Now, in a little bit, we'll talk about what about a difficult. What about somebody that's thrashing side to side and that's just kind of hollering and, not doing like what you would ideally like them to do. And we'll talk through a difficult one too. It just takes a little practice, and just keep a calm head about it. So what do we say we try to put this in? I don't know. I think back to when I had my COVID stuff, and I thought, God, they're killing me with this little swab. And this is considerably bigger. So this may not happen. We'll just see what happens as we go. But I think, well, why not? This is something I've always wondered about, like, how bad is it? So I don't know. Let's see. All right. So when I'm doing this, I know a lot of people only kind of moisten the tip of it. And to me, yes, I get it. Like, you got the lube on the end and you're putting it here, and it's just going to kind of go through it as you go through. I'm not that guy. I go ahead and I moisten that whole tube. I'll take a good bit of it right here, but I'll go ahead and pull it all the way down. I want this thing to glide as smooth as possible. And to me, the more the merrier. It's not one of those things, you can't use too much of it. So I go ahead and do that. And ideally, if you're doing this on somebody, have a little towel or something where you can kind of do that. So I guess, let's see what this feels like. Let's see what this is like, kind of first person experience here. and we'll go from there. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm not going to torture myself to death, and I'll just know that it's very uncomfortable, and that's that. Okay, so what we'll do, I've got my kind of little curve here, and I tell you what, I'm going to reverse it like this. I'm going to try to get it on the slicker side, because you know you've got holes on this side is slick, so let's try to hook it on the smooth side. Let's make life as easy as possible. And I'm going to eyeball, we said 55 right here. I'll try to keep that in mind. So we're going to go in the nose. So we're just going to cut a rocket. It is pretty large, I will tell you that. Woo! Wow. Yep. COVID swab to the max. This is a large tube. All right. So I can feel it right now at the back of my throat. I'm going to eyeball. I can only see the tube a little bit. I'm going to say we're probably at about, we're sitting at about 10 right here where I can feel it. So it burns pretty good once I hit the back of my throat here. So I'm going to try to shut up, and I'm going to try to swallow this as I advance it and see if I can do it here. All right. So let's see what we got. Now, as I push it, it's kind of hitting the back of the throat, and it's not really advancing very well. So I'm going to try to push it upwards a little bit and see if I can get it to bite. So negative on that. All I'm doing is basically badgering the back of my throat, and I can't get it to pass. So what let's do, let's try to give it a little bit more hook to it. If I could see through my tears right here. It's a little bit more difficult than it seems. So we've got a little hook to it. Let's try again. Let's get it in the passage. Woo. I'm going to tuck my head. Woo, boy. Oh, oh, man. Hot dang. Woo. Oh, wow. All right. Well, that is extremely uncomfortable. I will tell you that. So, wow. All right. I will, I'll give it one more pass, but woo, that's an eye opener right there. And it's really hard to swallow. It's just, period, it's hard to swallow. It's just very uncomfortable at the back of your throat. So trying to swallow it is, I don't know, it's very hard. So now you think about when you tell these people, swallow this tube when I tell you to get it back there. I know why they buck it and why they throw it around, because it feels like it's stabbing you in the back of the throat. Even though this is a soft plastic, it's still really hard to feel it. Sorry about the snot. If I see it coming out, it's something. So let's take a little bit more of the goo juice here. Let's try this one more again. If we don't have any success, then I can tell them what it feels like to the first part. How about that? All right, so we got our hook here, and let's get it slid back. That's much more, woo, much more raw feeling the second time around. So keep that in mind as you're trying to do this to people. And then let's go ahead and tuck. Now I feel like I got to sneeze. Of course, I got to sneeze, but let's try this. Yeah, so burns a lot. right? Feel like I gotta sneeze, cough, throw up, all at the same time. So we're sitting at about, I really can't see through the tears, but probably only about 20-ish. I can't do it. And as you can tell, I got some blood, so it's probably better. Woo!
It's enough to make a grown man cry, but not this man. Get back in there, Tia.
That is something serious. And maybe if somebody else was doing it, it'd be one thing, but it burns, stabs, all the things. If you got any kind of gag reflex, you're going to hit every inch of it as you go down. And I can still feel that in the back of my throat. And I can imagine what that feels like long term. Excuse me for the tears. Good gosh, they just pouring out. So, kind of an example of what does that feel like? Awful. Okay. Take my word for it. If you ever want to try it, don't. Not a good idea. So, I tried. I thought it would be a cool experiment if we did it, but we could not get it. But I will show you this because I think this is important in the taping mechanism. If we were to get it, and I'm going to just say we're at 55, if we were going to tape it, tape to the nose here. But what you want to do with this tape, take your first piece and don't stick it together like I did. Kind of pick one or the other, it doesn't matter. And you're going to candy cane it if you're doing it my way or if you got another method. So I went under and around. So this side, I'm going to bring this way. And it's going to give you kind of two different directions to pull in. I'm going to do that. I'm going to tape it down if this was my nose. And then what I do is bring this guy in second just to give it a little security here. Is there other ways to do it? By all means, yes. You can do it 10 different ways if you want to. And none of them are right versus wrong. It's whatever you prefer. I learned this way, and it actually does a really good job at holding, so I like it a lot. There are other ways with nasal bridles and stuff like that, but just for basic NG insertion, this is the way I would teach you how to do it, and it gives you, that's good holding power right there. Now, make sure you clean the bridge of the nose before you put the tape on. Take your little alcohol scrub and just make sure all the oil and stuff's off so it gets a good hold to it. But otherwise, they really got to yank on this thing in order to get it to come off. So that's my method, and use it if you like it. I think it works great. All right, guys, that is a wrap on today. NG tubes done. So I hope you guys had a good time. Hopefully the experiment we tried, hopefully it was helpful, maybe humorous to you in a bit, but I wish we would have been able to get the tube down just to see the full experience. The little taste I got, it's a lot. It is, that is pretty treacherous. So keep that in mind next time when you're going to put a tube in somebody's nose, and just respect that feeling. So don't forget, leave a comment in the section, enter to win for the free shirt. That's your choice. And then subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And let's keep things going. And I will see you next time.